Good morning, everybody. The quote I like to mention when I get to talk about what we do at Dust is that when art critics meet, they generally talk about form and structure and meaning. And when artists meet, they talk about where to buy paintbrushes and cheap turpentine. And so we're very happy here to get into the details of how it actually works and some of the use cases that are proving to be useful on the very popular, hyped, crazed topic of generative artificial intelligence. I'm Gabriel Hubert. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Dust. And we allow fast-moving teams to increase their performance by deploying AI-powered assistants across their internal workflows. Assistants that give them access to the best frontier models, Anthropic, Mistral, Google, etc., but also have context on the company's data and knowledge so that those models are grounded in up-to-date information and provide useful results on their workflows. We work with companies like Alan, that's disrupting healthcare, Payfit, that's disrupting payroll, and QONTO, that's disrupting finance. And I'm really pleased to have you on stage with me, Aymeric. Please tell us a bit about yourself and about QONTO.
Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to be here today in the trenches. You know, we have thought leadership up there. We have engineers getting stuff done here in the basement. So jokes aside. QONTO, in a few words. QONTO is making it easier for freelancers and SMEs to manage their finances. And in practice, this means providing a business banking account, sort of the baseline for finances, but also a set of tools to manage your invoicing, your bookkeeping, your spend management, essentially everything to keep your company running. So QONTO is 8 years old. We are about 106,000 people at this time, and I've been CTO for the past 4 years. And so recently, I've been very involved in exploring how AI can help us serve our customers faster and work smarter. And I think we're going to chat about this today.
Yeah, let's dive straight in. So 1,600 people. How many engineers, roughly?
But we 500.
Right. So we've got more than a third of the company working on R&D. How do you, as a CTO, think about generative artificial intelligence as an opportunity transversely? How do you think about it overall?
So if we go through the high-level model, the goal when we ride the Gen AI wave at QONTO is to work smarter, is to serve our customers faster, and I would say to forge a path in AI-driven finance management. Because if I say AI-driven finance management, it's a lot of buzzwords, it kind of makes sense, but what does it mean in practice? We want to find this path. And then we have concrete levers associated to each of these actions. And so working smarter starts with boosting dust in the hands of every QONTOer and getting them started, because we know that there's resistance to Gen AI. You know, it's uncannily close to what humans can do. And so there's a very specific resistance of people to just start using this tool. It's stronger than what I've seen with other tools. Then, when we get to serving customers faster, perhaps we can give a couple of concrete examples later, but essentially, these new technological capabilities let us do our job of providing business banking account, of managing bookkeeping, etc., faster, better, cheaper. And it starts with automating some tasks, which seems easy but needs to be done, and it's a good first step. And then it can move forward to rethinking processes, but that's a bit further down the curve, and we're not there yet. And lastly, we should talk about our product, about how we put really AI in the product, how we expose it to end users. There's a lot of exploration in this space, but when you're into finance management, you know, you're not going to put Mid-Journey in your bank, so this is an interesting challenge for us.
Yeah, I think that the point of bottom-up exploration is really one that we've heard from a lot of our customers. At Alan today, 80% of the company uses Dust daily, and it's across workflows that we could not have come up with and invented. They're really idiosyncratic to some of the ways in which that company has decided to work. So maybe let's just dive straight in. Let's have a concrete example of a use case that you've been able to explore and expand on and deploy using this at-scale deployment of an AI platform like Dust.
You have to give some space for a product example later because it's funnier. But let's start with the back office stuff. So we have people with companies or people who create companies who want to open an account. And we have to perform some due diligence on them and to check a number of documents. Those documents tend to be pretty long. For example, we have to check that the company doesn't operate a business that we are not happy to serve, maybe because they're in the business of selling drugs or selling weapons or selling some kind of financial services that we are not fully equipped to serve. So we have a bunch of restrictions like this. And this is a list of 2 pages, and humans are trying in 5 minutes to determine if the company is one of those blacklisted activities. It's very boring, it's error-prone, and it turns out that it does this really, really well. You give it whatever you give it the rules, you give it whatever we know about the customer from their incorporation documents, and AI will tell you thumbs up or thumbs down, and it will put together a blurb of why it thinks it's 5 lines, that it's a thumb up or thumb down. And then humans can check that very quickly. We save 3 minutes on a process that takes 15 minutes. That's 20% productivity improvement. And it translates into thousands of hours per year of busy work. So we literally have 1 fewer person no longer doing this job that no one wants to do. So that's cool.
Maybe 2 questions on that. One, could you give us a sense of how long it took to actually go from idea to implementation? And 2, can you walk us through the reaction of the team? We hear a lot about fear or hesitation, uncertainty in the face of some parts of their jobs being automated. How have the teams reacted, and what would you say that indicates going forward for deployment of other use cases?
So development of the use case is very, very quick. It takes a handful of attempts to get to a prompt that works. And we document these attempts to learn from it. Then we will typically check manually what the AI does on 100 examples. So it's 100 times 5 minutes. So we are still well below 1 week of work. Then there's change management, but we're deploying this to teams of a dozen people to a few dozen of people. So it can be done very, very quickly. So from start to fully deploy, I think it's 2 weeks. And the ROI is reached within the first hours of deployment. There's a payoff. One reason why it works well in ops is that they're culturally very open to doing whatever it takes to get the job done. You know, this is the psychology of ops. The job needs to get done quickly. And they're very well organized for change management. There's a new procedure, deploy the new procedure. So this makes it a very fertile ground for this kind of experiment. And one thing I didn't mention is, of course, it wasn't me or the CEO having the idea. It was someone who said, hey, this is just so painful, and AI it's very good at reading. We will get the AI to read the documents.
Yeah, I think the dispersion of use cases, the fragmentation of places where there's value to be gained on workflows is one of the reasons that bottom-up adoption and ideation has been so successful with our customers. So I know you also want to talk about the way in which the product is looking at generative artificial intelligence. Can you walk us through a concrete way in which the QONTO experience has changed with Gen AI?
Yeah, so that's a really cool example. About 4 months back, we did a hackathon, and we had a dozen teams coming up with ideas to improve our product. And so one of these ideas was quite straightforward. So I explained that customers sign up, and then we have to review their documents. So there's kind of a dead end. You've given us all the information, and you have to wait for a few hours while we check them, and then we give you your account. This is better than traditional banks because for them it's a few weeks. For us it's a few hours. Still, you have to wait. And so we created a logo generator. So at the end of the onboarding funnel, we give you a space where you can tell us a bit about your company, choose some colors, and AI will generate a logo. Okay, pretty straightforward. It felt like an interesting idea, so we just decided to do it. It was in the product, I think, 2 months after the hackathon. And this is our most adopted feature ever at QONTO. We had 30% of users using it from the day it was released. And why it's really cool is it starts personalizing the experience. We take this logo and it becomes the avatar of the company in the QONTO app. So when people come in QONTO, it's already their QONTO. And I feel like, you see, it's AI, but it's sort of rehumanizing and personalizing the experience. And I find this really cool.
Yeah, and for many people creating their account at the same time that they're creating their company, it's actually shortening a process of finding a logo to begin with. Which,
of course.
I guess a couple of questions that the audience may have that I definitely have is, from your point of view as a technological leader, what have you changed your mind on in the last 6 to 9 months? Everything's going so fast. What do you feel you've really changed your mind on the specific topic of Gen AI?
So I see that the industry is structuring into companies building the fundamental models, building the LLMs. So I'm talking of the likes of Mistral, OpenAI, Anthropic, etc. And companies making it easy to use these models in your particular business context. And Dust is, of course, one of them. But if you think of GitHub Copilot, it's another example of bringing it in the workplace where you need it within your day-to-day tools. And at some point, it really felt like OpenAI had won. It was going to be an OpenAI monopoly. And actually, AI is growing so fast that it looks like there will be a lot of innovation and competition in both spaces, both on the core models and on the SaaS ecosystem or other ecosystem to use those models. And I'm quite happy with this because it means more competition, it means better models. And so that makes me very enthusiastic. For us, for all users of AI, I think it means that we should stake our bets a little bit and make sure that we keep track of all these developments and be ready to apply, reuse our knowledge, switch tools if needed, to make sure we remain at the edge.
Yeah, one of the engineering teams at our customers was able to sort of benchmark Claude, Opus, Mistral's largest model, and OpenAI's GPT-4 Turbo in sort of 20, 30 minutes, evaluate them on a number of use cases, and then switch them over to another model. I think the dispersion in models, nobody's gotten that PhD in understanding what model is best at what, and it's useful to be anti-fragile and quite resilient to those changes. I do want to talk a bit about the skilling part, the upskilling or the reskilling portion of that. How are you maybe approaching the way in which the teams at QONTO bake this stochastic technology into the way they think about continuously upskilling?
I'm going to give the real answer there. I think this is still a little bit in the future. Today, where we see the most momentum is when I would say a middle manager, so direct manager or manager of managers, believes in it and pushes their team to do it. Usually they build the first bot and they tell their team, you just use the bot. And I would love something a bit more distributed and bottom-up, but this appears to be the pragmatic way to get the first step done. All the more since these managers, they're still very much aware of where are the pain points, where we could use the technology, where we are reading or writing a lot of text and it makes sense. But they have enough hindsight to think about this versus think about just doing the job on the day-to-day. So I think it's really key to build upon these layers. The next step, I don't know what they are. I see that as people start using typically a Dust bot built by their manager, they will use Dust more for other jobs because they start realizing that they can try things with Dust. But I would say this is still a bit in the future for us, so I'm on this path.
Yeah, and I think you have to, both from a cross-divisional or cross-functional standpoint and also because of the company's priority, there is some top-down injection on which specific workflows and use cases to focus on first that I think is necessary. What we're excited to see is that this technology, in the previous talk, we mentioned hallucinations. I think hallucinations are nothing else than the flip side of what is the ultimate power of these models, the ability to reformulate information on the fly. And in doing so, allow internal translation between teams that were speaking the same language, but not the same language. We're seeing use cases between marketing and engineering, between sales and engineering that have really been inspiring on that. Last question, I'm going to hold you to a number. This is pure speculation, but I want your opinion. We had 20% productivity gains on this one use case. Does 20% overall productivity gains seem reasonable, outlandish, optimistic, pessimistic? Where's your head at a year from now?
What I would say is that's what I'm shooting for. if there's another event in 1 year, you can ask me how it's been going. I think it's going to be a lot more than 20% in some areas. I just want to be a bit careful about the hype, because if you give Cursor or GitHub Copilot to an engineer and you ask them how much faster they are, they will tell you like 30%. But I think we are measuring excitement and employee satisfaction more than productivity. And the real number have to come from regular business metrics that we are already measuring. Because to a large extent, GenAI is not an end in itself. It's a means to an end, which is to improve our metrics. There's one exception to this, an exception I care about, which is if teams save time by removing busy work, they can get more creative and start doing things that they weren't doing before. And I'm really on the lookout for this, because to me, this is the biggest success of GenAI.
All right, well, let's meet again here next year, see where we are on the creativity and the 20%. Thank you very much, Aymeric. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you all.